Thank you for downloading Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. In this episode, Sam and I recap games 1 and 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. We break down the NBA draft lottery and discuss the Cavs options at 8. And we discuss LeBron's future. Also, if you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns, check out our Browns podcast, the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast. I'm joined by Browns insider Jeremy in Akron, and we bring you the very best Browns coverage and analysis you'll find in podcast form. We are the premier Cleveland Browns podcast. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check us out on Twitter at Orange is Oranger. Listen, this episode was a ton of fun. Sam's been making his rounds on other podcasts and the radio, so it was great to have him back. Always great hearing his insight and expertise. We hope you enjoy the show. Here we go.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. I am your host, Chase Smith, and with me, Cavs insider, national NBA writer Sam Amico of AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm not too bad, Chase. How about yourself?
We are down 0-2. Had the draft lottery a couple nights ago. Let's talk about that. Let's touch the games first, Eastern Conference Finals, before we get to the draft lottery. Man, rough couple days in Boston, Sam. Was not fun if you're a Cavalier. Game 1, we saw kind of a blowout, honestly, almost from the get-go. The Cavs only led by 3. It was like 7-4, I think, and then it just went all downhill from there. Game 2 was a little bit different, but let's talk about Game 1 first. 83-108, LeBron, one of his worst playoff games I can remember. What happened in Game 1, Sam?
A lot of times, it's not uncommon for the Cavs and LeBron to have that lousy Game 1. We saw it against Indiana at home. I didn't think that was a huge concern. LeBron said after the game, I'm not concerned at all, if you remember, after Game 1. But because the Cavs are such a team that's, as opposed to let's be proactive and come out with energy and, take this series right away like they did in Toronto, they're more prone to, especially in the LeBron James era, kind of struggling in that first game. Let's take the temperature of the series, stick our toes in the water before diving all the way in. And I think they did that, and they do it to a fault. They've always done that since even LeBron's first time around in Cleveland, definitely a second time around. Too often they do not take Game 1 all that seriously, or not seriously enough. And against a team like Boston and teams like Indiana, that comes back to bite you because those teams play so hard. That's all they have going for them is their effort. And if you don't match their effort, you're going to get blown out. And that's what happens in Game 1. In Game 1s for the Cavs and in Game 1 of this series.
It did give you cold chills about the Indiana series and how to the brink this overachieving Pacers team took the Cavs. And now you have a Celtics team who has a better coach, probably one of the best coaches in the NBA, who has skilled players probably better than the skilled players of the Pacers. This is a better Pacers team. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that. In Game 2, it did really feel like they're taking the temperature. LeBron's looking at the chess moves and what he can do. LeBron understands and we keep saying LeBron when it's a Cavs team, but saying, let's be honest, like they have taken the identity. LeBron carries that weight. Right. We go as LeBron goes. And it did seem they were kind of taking Game 1. Lou subbed in the guys super early into the fourth, kind of checked. That was a blowout. And in Game 2, the Cavs come out and have a little bit different first half, Sam, right?
Yeah, I will say this. I watched the first half, and I didn't think the Cavs were playing great. And that kind of made me think, this is going to be a nip-and-tuck game because the Cavs are not playing great. Boston is missing a lot of shots. Boston's being sloppy. And it really wasn't a true team effort in terms of why the Cavs were successful in that first half. LeBron, had that big first quarter. And that kind of gave them the edge they needed, but nobody else was playing well. And then sure enough, out they come in the third quarter, and it's Cavs basketball. They got to play bad in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And that was that. And you know, the sad thing is it very much echoed those losses in the Indiana series where they just couldn't get anything going other than LeBron James. And that's not going to win you games. We've seen that. We've seen when it's all LeBron and a little bit of Kevin Love and then no one else, you're not going to win. That's just not the way the Cavs play their best basketball.
LeBron had 24 or 26 points in the first half.
I think he had 21 at the end of the first quarter. Then he got that neck strain.
Yeah.
When Jason Tatum ran into him, and he really wasn't the same after that. Mm-hmm. But you know, he played well enough after that the Cavs, if the other Cavs had stepped up, they would have held on to the lead and won. Again, you know, you've got J.R. Smith, who's been missing in action this series.
You mean year?
Yeah. I think, honestly, Chase, he's had like 4 or 5 good games. He's probably had 3 good games in the playoffs and games where he's really stepped up. But, you know, for most of the season, you never know what you're going to get from him. And you know what that's a sign of? And as much as I hate to say it, it's a sign of a guy who's, if not totally washed up, leaning towards being over the hill. And that's about where JR is right now. He's just not a reliable contributor. And I think age has something to do with that.
You know, I let me tell you this. I have a J.R. Smith fathead. I'm a fan of just the adversity he's had to overcome, and he seems to kind of have his life on track now.
Yeah.
But when I saw that flagrant foul against Horford in the fourth, like, I was pretty upset. That I grew up playing basketball, and you just don't do that.
Well, as Mark Jackson said, that would have, if that was on the playground, that would have been the end of the game. It would have led to a fight, a brawl, and that's the end of the game. It's over. Yep. So, no, you're right, Chase. I feel badly because he's kind of prone to those, and he's been a good sport on the court all season, and it's just the wrong time to melt down. And that was the game. That was, you know, they had 2 shots in the ball, and that was it. And
Horford hit that and one, I think, when they got the ball back, right?
Yes, right. That really – so, I mean, those type of things are killers at this time of year. And, you know, JR is a veteran player. I think he wasn't thinking, I give up, I'm just going to shove the guy. I think he was thinking, I'm going to foul him. And he did say, you know, I didn't mean to – I just wanted to give the guy a light push in the back. And,
yeah, you know,
I don't think that there was any evil intent there. I just think that he probably should have just let Horford dunk the ball. Probably just, you know, take the 2 points. You don't get the foul. And it was not a veteran play from a guy who's been there before, which is unfortunate. So, look, they need not just J.R. Smith to step up.
Yep.
He's been miserable. And if part of it's not his problem. I mean, if you're Ty Lue, and you know, why is he in the game at the end? The guy has done nothing. But then you look down at the end of the bench and you see, okay, my option is Rodney Hood, or Jordan Clarkson, who hadn't played it all game, and then Rodney Hood, who's been miserable. And it's amazing he's getting minutes. So, you know, I think that there are a lot of issues that have been there all season that a team like Boston is going to bring out in you, because Boston plays hard, they play smart, they've got athletic wings, they throw all kinds of guys at LeBron, and their philosophy, it seems, is let LeBron go nuts and we'll shut down the other guys.
Can't we just go back in time 5 days to where they were doing handshakes after a 4-game sweep and all smiles? Can't we just go back to living there? Because, I mean, what's your level of concern, Sam? LeBron was at a 0 after game 1, and I don't think he commented on a level of concern after game 2, but this is very, very similar to that Indiana series. I loved how the Pacers play, and you know what? I love watching the Celtics play. I love how they're a team. I love how they play defense. I love how they're unselfish on offense, and it's really hurtful to watch them play basketball super pure and then have ABC do a cut shot to Kyrie. Like, oh man, like, to make it, this is all like not helping anything.
Right.
They play beautiful basketball, and I love. And honestly, I didn't have a problem with Marcus Smart going after J.R. Smith after that push. So that's what I want to see from a team.
Right.
So what level of concern do you have for this series? Now, I know we've been awesome at home. We're 5-1 at home in the playoffs. We play great in Cleveland. Sam, what level of concern are you at right now in this series?
I will let you know more after games 3 and 4. Actual concern. Again,
they're not much right now.
Not a ton, because Boston did what they were supposed to do. That's what you fight all year for, is home court advantage. Now, if the Cavs win the next 2 games, then they've found something. They've got momentum, and they have LeBron in what is now a best-of-3 series. So, they have to win both at home, obviously. If they don't, the series is over. And I say that having seen this team come back from 3-1 against a better team, but Kyrie Irving isn't on this team anymore. So the concern, again, is not so much that they can't tie the series and make it 2-2. The concern is, are they going to be able to get the rotations right? Is the game management going to be better from the coaching staff, Ty Lue specifically? Is somebody like is somebody else going to step up at home? And that's the thing. Look, this team is LeBron James, and who's number 1, and then Kevin Love, who's second, but really not playing like a true number 2 until recently.
Which, yeah. Yep, I would say in that Toronto series, I think Love found something, and yes. I think he played a really good game too. I think. I mean,
yes, he did.
Very active. He really did a good job getting him involved. But it's that they got 3 points from Hill and J.R. Smith, who played over 30 minutes. And not only that, they're playing 33 minutes. Like you have to have more production than that. You have to.
Well, at this point, you may as well have kept Derrick Rose, because you guarantee he may not have been the same guy, but he would have scored more than 3 points. The guy was averaging 12, 14 points a game with the Cavs off the bench.
Play Chetty Usman.
Yes, right. Play Osman, and that's not to say these guys are the answers, but you don't know unless you try. Give Clarkson a couple minutes. See what he can do. Maybe he gets hot. Maybe he frustrates the Celtics, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he stinks, and then you got to go back to George Hill. But I think that you have the pieces there that you're at desperation stage, And what I was saying before is, right now in the NBA playoffs, and even in the regular season, but especially the NBA playoffs, the role players always play their best at home.
Yeah.
So that's why you feel confident if you're the Cavs, or still have some degree of confidence, is, we're going to have LeBron James playing well. We're going to have Kevin Love playing well. And at home, we're going to get that third guy, whether it's J.R. Smith's making shots, whether it's Kyle Korver, who had a nice second quarter and then couldn't get open in the second half.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Jeff Green, who's been non-existent again in this series. Maybe he'll play better at home. So
come on, Uncle Jeff.
That's what you're looking for is one of those role players step up. Because if you get even one more guy to get going, the energy of the crowd, again, this series very well, Chase, what is it, Saturday, Monday this week? So by Tuesday, we could be saying, the series is 2-2. Cavs have all the momentum now, going back to Boston. Guess what? You get this to 2-2 and all the momentum with LeBron James. You go into Boston, win Game 5. Game over. You're coming back home, game over. So obviously they're either, to me, and I can't tell you which way I'm leaning, but they're either going to have a total meltdown and just blow it, at home and just go into meltdown mode, or they're going to find something that works. And I can tell you, when you find something that works with LeBron James on the team, it's game over. If you find something that works, I don't know that they can, though, against the Celtics team, which has totally been outplaying them in every facet.
That was going to be my counter, to play the devil's advocate. You're going against the best coach in the NBA, who right when you think he's going to zig, he zags. He seems to be one step ahead. And it's almost LeBron's – I mean, I don't want to – no disrespect to Pop or to Steve Kerr, but like LeBron almost meets his match in Brad Stevens, who's mentally coming up with schemes and throwing different things at you. So I don't know if LeBron can just sit back and try to figure it out, because when he figures it out, it's going to change.
Well, that's the thing, is they will throw Jaylen Brown on him, who's super young and super athletic and has LeBron's size, height-wise. Jason Tatum, who's very athletic and quick and has decent size. Marcus Morris, who's very physical and, grabs and holds and fouls LeBron. And even though he'll get called for it sometimes, guess what? So what? He'll give up 2 fouls and then go guard Kevin Love or something. So they have a lot of parts. They'll put Marcus Smart on him, who's even though he's undersized, is very physical. And as you've seen, LeBron sometimes shoots fadeaway jumpers against Marcus Smart, who's 4 inches shorter. So that's the thing, is they throw so many people at him. And then Baines gets on Aaron Baines gets on LeBron sometimes, gets switched on to him, and uses his body and his width to keep LeBron from getting an easy shot. So they just have a lot of weapons, and they use them all on LeBron James and really make him work. And if you look throughout history, Chase, in the NBA playoffs, Phil Jackson used to do this, and Brad Stevens is doing it too. Make their superstar miserable. Did LeBron have 42 points the other night? Yeah, but he was miserable getting them. And that's just the philosophy of a good defensive coach.
Yep. Couple more topics here before we jump to the NBA draft lottery. How important of a role is Tristan Thompson in getting this series turned around?
He's been, who are the two physical guys on the Cavs? That's their other problem, is they've been soft. One of them's LeBron, who will play physical basketball. Kevin Love gets a ton of rebounds, but he doesn't play physical basketball. Tristan Thompson is your other physical guy.
And it was evident watching that game when TT was in the ball game for the Cavs. There was an inside presence offensively on the boards and defensively in the paint that just wasn't there when he wasn't in.
No, you need to play him and ride out his moments where he will disappear. For this season, he will disappear sometimes. And he disappeared for very long stretches in the regular season. But in the playoffs, he's been better at that, and he's been better at home. So I just think, keep playing Tristan, because Boston's such a physical team. The one thing about Boston that the Cavs can take advantage of, and that they need to do this at home, is Boston's a highly emotional team. Very emotional guys. Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Baines, all of those guys.
Terry Rozier.
All those guys play on emotion. And when that happens, it's like Draymond Green. If you change that emotion and just – because it's a fine line when you're such an emotional player that you can – something goes wrong, then all of a sudden they melt down. Their emotion isn't a positive. It turns into a negative. And the Cavs got to find a way to do that. They've got to find a way to break them. And if they can do that emotionally and mentally, if they can do that, they will have the upper hand in this series, like, click of the fingers, because Boston still – look, Chase, Boston is a young team.
Yes.
They've got 3 young players in Rozier, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. Those teams can fold quickly in the playoffs. And the rest of their guys, I'm sorry, are role players. I know Al Horford's been an all-star before, but he was a borderline all-star, and the Cavs always had the best of him. So it won't take much. It won't take much, but both of these teams are totally capable of collapsing at any moment.
Yeah, I don't think it's completely fair to say that Tristan Thompson disappeared in the regular season. There's video. We know where he was, Sam.
Yeah, we've seen Tristan plenty in the regular season.
We know where he was. There's video. Nice try. All right, so game 3 and 4, game 3 prediction. Sam, what do you see the Cavs doing here? Do you see him give us a score prediction for game 3? We'll be nice and ask for one prediction on game 3.
I think the Cavs will win game 3. I think that they'll win. I think that it might be nip and tuck for a while, but I'm going to take the Cavs 108-98. I just think that the home court and the experience and their anger of how they've been playing. They'll come home after a series go down 0-2 and then come out and play with great energy and resolve. And maybe they'll, I don't think they're out of this by any stretch. Again, LeBron says it. I've written it 100 times. And it's a cliche, but the series does not start until both teams play a home game. So, Boston did Boston did what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
And I had said this: if the Cavs had won one game in Boston, then the series was over.
Yep.
So, look, you got to win both at home, and you do that. And again, you got the momentum and LeBron James and 3 games to take care of it. And I think if the Cavs win both at home, they're the favorites again. I think that they can get one in Boston. I really do.
Yeah. Sam Amico's level of concern is very minimal right now, and I think that's for good reason. We still have the best player in the planet. We still have the best player of his generation. We still have arguably the best player of all time playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, have 2 games at home, back against the wall. And I think LeBron, he's looking at this and he's looking at the West and you see, man, they're going to be in a series. They're going to be playing hard, really taking a lot out of each other. Steph Curry really hasn't been the same except for one game since he comes back from injury. I think LeBron's realizing, hopefully, that honestly, this getting past this Boston team, and then it's a different final. So, I think we need to – it's so easy to overreact off of one terrible game one, overreact after a kind of second-half collapse in game two. I think we just need to pump the brakes a little bit and see what happens in game three. I think you're right, 108-98. I'll co-sign with you there, man. I'll go there.
All right. Well, I just think that they have to win. This is a must-win for the Cavs,
So let's pivot here and talk about the draft. Lottery was Tuesday night. The Cavs really heavy interest in this draft as they're looking to hopefully get a high pick from that Nets pick acquired from Boston in the Kyrie Isaiah Thomas trade. The Cavs end up with the 8th pick in the draft. Sam, I'm going to read you off the draft order here. We're going to talk about it. With the first pick, we have the Phoenix Suns. Second pick, the Sacramento Kings. Third pick, Atlanta Hawks. Fourth pick, Memphis Grizzlies. Fifth pick, Dallas Mavericks. Tanking didn't really work out for them. Sixth pick, Orlando Magic. 7, Chicago Bulls. 8 are Cleveland Cavaliers. Sam, is this what they expected, or were they kind of bummed they didn't get a higher pick?
Well, you're always bummed, but that's where they were. That they had the 8th best odds, and that's where it ended up. So I think that anybody who doesn't finish in the top 3 is like, oh, dang it. But they ended up where they were supposed to. That's why the lottery is weighted. And teams like Dallas that should have had a top 3 pick are the ones that are bummed, and then instead in 5th. But the Cavs pretty much figured they were gonna end up with 8, and that's where they are. So I don't think it's a terrible travesty, and especially in this draft that's so deep. And guess what? It's the draft. It can very much be a crapshoot in terms of look, the Cavs have had a lot of number ones before, and they ended up. Do they even have any of them? They don't have Kyrie Irving. They don't have Anthony Bennett. They don't have Andrew Wiggins. So, does it really matter? It's what you want is, and was Kawhi Leonard a number 1 pick? No. Was Larry Bird? No. Was Michael Jordan? No.
Giannis? No. You go down the list.
There are a lot of guys out there. Steph Curry wasn't, Klay Thompson. All these guys that are major contributors. Draymond Green was a 2nd-round pick. So it's all. You just got to make the best of the picks that you have, and every general manager in the league will tell you need some dumb luck. Because guess what? And I don't want to be rain on anybody's parade here, but when you give a 19-year-old, $7 million, however much it is, the first year, you give the 19-year-old, you'd have no idea how hard he's going to continue to work on his game. Yep. So it truly is, you truly do need a lot of luck, and draft picks, these 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids can cost general managers their jobs simply by continuing, or quitting working on their games and going and spending all their money and living the life. So that's why it's a crapshoot. On the bright side, there seems to be a lot of naturally gifted young men entering the draft this year. Yeah, and it should be a deep draft, and theoretically, you're going to get an immediate impact contributor if on a winning team with the number 8 pick out of this draft.
Yep, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Does this help or hurt the Kyrie Isaiah Thomas Crowder trade, Sam? Does this make that look better or worse?
No, it makes it look worse, especially since you're not getting anything. Because really, to me, the Isaiah Kyrie trade really now turned into the Kyrie, Larry Nance Jr., George Hill, Rodney Hood, and Jordan Clarkson trade, and you're not getting anything from those guys in the playoffs except George Hill once in a while. So that's where it really looks bad, is really the Kyrie pick boiled down to number 8. But again, can you judge the trade based on, they have the 8th pick? No, you got to judge it based on whether this player who they have helps, or this pick turns into a player who helps them win a title. Now, maybe you get the number 8 pick. And I know you said pump the brakes, but I very rarely can do that, Chase. But anyway, so say you get the number 8 pick, you have to draft somebody. Let's say you draft Trae Young from Oklahoma. Let's say he's there. You draft him. Now you may be able to package him in a deal. Can you package Trae Young in a deal for a guy who helps you win a title? Or do you keep Trae Young and maybe he proves to be good enough to be your starting point guard and a dynamic NBA player as soon as next season? So there are a lot of different things you can do at number 8. And I think that we should wait until that plays out to see whether or not the Cavs won or lost the Kyrie Irving trade. I'll tell you this. Keep an eye out for the Portland Trailblazers. Do they want to move Damian Lillard? There's rumors and talk that they want to move C.J. McCollum, or they may be willing to break up that backcourt of McCollum and Lillard. And I would keep an eye out for that, because now maybe that solves your point guard issue. You could package number 8 with maybe some other pieces and parts. And if Portland wants to break up that backcourt enough, that might be an answer for you if you're the Cavs.
CJ is a noted Cleveland fan, loves the Browns.
Yes, he does.
So would you be surprised if the Cavs trade the 8th pick, or is that something that you think is very much on the table?
No, I think it's very much on the table. As we all know, you because they traded their other first-round pick, they have to keep this one. Excuse me, and draft a player. But they can trade the player that they drafted, the rights to the player. And I'd say undoubtedly that's on the table, without question. Because, again, you don't know what this player is going to bring you except for the promise of a talented rookie. And sometimes that pans out, sometimes it doesn't. So you've got to keep an eye out for that. And, yes, I think the pick is very much on the table.
Is LeBron's fate tied to this pick?
I think that they can hang on to it, whoever they draft until LeBron makes his decision, So this might not play out until LeBron makes his decision part due.
It
might not play out.
Jeez.
It may not play out fully, Chase, until right before the season opener next year. That's if LeBron comes back or if he leaves. Now, maybe LeBron comes back and then right before training camp, they say, you know what? These things in San Antonio aren't correcting themselves. They're only getting worse with Kawhi Leonard. Place a phone call and say, do you guys want this pick, this player that we drafted? Do you want Michael Porter Jr., who I don't think will drop that far, but let's say he does. But do you want Michael Porter? Do you want Wendell Carter from Duke?
Yeah.
Who could drop that far? Do you want Colin Sexton or some of these other guys, Trae Young, or some of those guys that you might be able to – yeah, right.
A winner,
from Michigan State, or no, that's Miles Bridges. Michael Bridges is from Villanova, right? Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's all something that you're going to have to think about as the time comes. And if you're the Cavs, you can hold on to your draft pick or the player that you draft, Mohamed Bamba or whoever, until LeBron's decision, and then let's say LeBron decides to come back, and you think, all right, well, let's see what else we might be able to get. What kind of proven veteran help can we get to try to win a championship? Because now LeBron's back, and that's going to remake everything. And they'll have a lot of work to do if he comes back. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, they still have a lot of work ahead of them to become a true championship contender. And I don't think anybody thinks they're going to win the title this year. So there are still some holes on this roster, obviously, that they're going to have to make work, and it'll take a lot of work and a lot of creativity with or without that draft pick as part of a package.
Players always shoot up, players always drop. I want to read some names here, starting around pick 6, go to 10, just to get a feel for who could be in our range that we're looking at. Michael Porter, you mentioned the small forward out of Missouri, who had an injury in college, didn't play that many games, but is super athletic. This is a draft with a lot of big men, Sam, a very big, very tall draft. One of the best guards is in the draft is Trae Young, that point guard out of Oklahoma, led the nation in scoring and assists. We're looking at Wendell Carter again, that power forward center from Duke. Michael Bridges from Villanova, that he's a junior, one of the older guys in the lottery, helped Villanova to the second title. A lot of Kawhi Leonard comparisons there. He's a shooting guard, small forward, 6'7" tall, fits that kind of small ball mold that we're seeing a lot. Miles Bridges from Michigan State, again, small forward, power of 6'7", really good in the Big Ten. Colin Sexton out of Alabama. So we have all these players that are – this is a very deep draft, like you said, and any number of scenarios could happen. But more than likely, one of those names is going to be a Cleveland Cavalier next year.
Yeah, I would think so. I really like Colin Sexton from Alabama. There's been some questions about his outside shooting, but he's a nice player, and I like his toughness. He's reminds me a little bit of Rondo, but with a little more skill set in terms of offensive ability, but just plays with that edge. I like him. I like Trae Young. I had a general manager tell me he can't decide whether Trae Young's more Steph Curry or Jimmer Fredette, but he said that I think that he has the potential to be a magnificent player if he can hold up because he's obviously very skilled. I really like Kevin Knox, the kind of hybrid forward from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. He's kind of late lottery or, kind of like 11 to 13 range is what people are saying. But I really like him because he's, again, he kind of reminds me of Marcus Morris or Markieff Morris, I should say, the better of the two who plays for the Wizards. And maybe even a little more athletic than him, but a nice starting type of all around guy who would be wonderful to have off the bench. I think Kevin Knox. So we've named so many names, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of them because they all are very talented, very athletic guys. There aren't too many question marks surrounding those guys that we named.
This is a good draft. If you're going to have the 8th pick, this is a good draft to have the 8th pick. There's a lot of ways you can go, a lot of really high-profile, high-ceiling names, and it's been nice to see these last couple years. I feel like last year's draft was very deep as well.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. Sam, before we get off here, one more question. If the Cavs lose to the Celtics in 5 or 6, does that mean LeBron is gone? We talk about it every episode, but it's a question I want to talk about. If the Cavs lose the Eastern Conference Finals, is LeBron gone?
No, I don't think it means he stays, but it certainly doesn't mean he's gone. He came back because this is home, and that's what he said. And now he did deliver a championship, so that was one big reason he came home. But again, I think it's while it will be LeBron's decision, he will also involve his family. He's a very family-oriented guy. He's a very devoted father, doting father. And his kids are going to play a huge role, and as well as the market. The market for LeBron James is not what it used to be in terms of teams wanting to sign him to a maximum super max contract at the age of 33 going on 34. It's just not. That's the reality of the world, is that guys get older and their bodies start to break down. We saw what happened with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
Do the Houston Rockets, does LeBron put Houston over the top? Maybe, but they would have to give up a ton of their role players, the Eric Gordons, the Trevor Arizas, the PJ Tuckers, and I'm sure they would gladly do that for LeBron. But does that ruin their chemistry? Two ball dominant guys in LeBron and James Harden. Then you have Chris Paul, who I just saw Kenyon Martin yesterday say Chris Paul's probably the least liked player in the NBA when it comes to being liked by his teammates. So, and that's Kenyon Martin, So there are a lot of different dynamics going on that I think could, regardless of how this plays out, keep him in Cleveland. But I think LeBron would want you to trade that pick in the event that he's going to stay. I think that he's going to say, get us some help. Go get, whether or not you can get a Paul George, if Paul George were to opt in, go get another star and mix up this roster a little bit so we can have another chance to compete. Because in reality, there's no surefire situation for LeBron. If he goes west, it doesn't matter. You still have to contend with that Golden State team every year. Yep. You want to not even get out of the Western Conference, and even going to Houston is no guarantee. So to answer your question, Chase, no. If they lose, that does not mean it doesn't mean it. And if they went and got to the finals and lost in the finals, that doesn't mean that he's staying. So
right.
I think that the people read too much into that. It's going to be more of a family decision. Man. And do I really, really want to leave again? I think that that's going to be in the back of his mind.
The national narrative can't wait to push LeBron out of Cleveland. It's so hard to hear and read and see so many personalities online. Oh, he's either going to Houston, LA, or Philly. They can't wait to make that happen. So it's nice to hear someone, even though you're here in Cleveland, kind of say a little otherwise.
Well, I don't know why that is. I'm not really sure why that is at all. Why they want him out of Cleveland so badly, but they did the first time, and they do just as much now. And they want LeBron in LA or Philly or anywhere but Cleveland. They want him. We even saw one Golden State. Which I don't think the Warriors don't want a ball dominant guy. They're the best team in the league when it comes to assists and ball movement. And that's not to say LeBron, they'd win multiple titles, of course, but I think Golden State's perfectly happy as is. So
yeah,
they just don't. Whatever reason they don't. I don't know whether they don't like coming to Cleveland or whether they're. Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely a bias from the national media. There isn't. Other than like Colin Cowherd, there isn't like one national guy who's like LeBron should stay. I think Stephen A. Smith actually does. I think Stephen A's thinks that LeBron should stay in Cleveland, but the rest of them, no, they want him gone. Yeah. And I don't get it. I don't know why, and I'll never know why. But that's the way it's always going to be. Apparently,
it's drama, and it gives them something to talk about, and it gets clicks, and it gets downloads and hits. So.
Well, it's a lot.
Whatever.
As a guy who runs a website, I can tell you you'll get a lot more clicks nationally if you say LeBron is probably leaving than you will as if
100%.
Oh, he's staying, because that's boring. That's boring. If LeBron's staying in Cleveland, well, that's not exciting at all.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it. So
sure.
There you go.
Yep. Well, that does it for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening, and thank you for checking out AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. Do us a favor. Now listen, we've been saying this for a couple episodes. Really do us a favor. Rate, subscribe, and review our podcast. Right now, Sam, this is sad. We only have 5 ratings and 1 review. That hurts my heart. It does help us with iTunes algorithms and other search algorithms. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. You can follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his work and writings at AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. We're also looking for sponsors. If you have a business or an online venture and want to get your name out there and exposed to the masses, email us, podcast@CavsOnTheBreak.com, and we can begin that discussion. Sam, any final thoughts?
Well, I just predicted there will be 2-2. If not by the next time we talk, then it'll be 2-1, and then we'll be all excited, I think, or at least Cavs fans will. And then, I honestly, 2-2, and then we're going to see the Cavs come back and win this series. There's my final thoughts. How's that sound?
I love it. I love it. Mike Breen, take us out!
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.